Hey guys, my name is Carla Grace. I am a full-time wildlife artist and I'm going to give you access to a really great section of my tutorial that teaches how to paint the soft velvet textures of deer antlers. In this sneak peek, I will show you the section that focuses on building midtones. This will help you understand the importance of spending the time to build the foundation tones needed to create depth and brilliance. I'll guide you through a practical step-by-step format, discussing brushwork and simple colors needed to create realistic texture on the antlers. The full tutorial is applicable for both oil and acrylic paint. In the full tutorial, I cover my layering process going from start to finish, concentrating on working from dark to light and how to create a realistic soft-looking texture. Now I'll show you the full section from the tutorial and I will see you at the end. Due to the two tonal variations between the warm and the cool tones in this painting, I'm going to do what I did in the previous layer and I'm going to work on the next value on both the cool side and the warm side. So for the cool side, I'm going to use a bit more titanium white and I'm going to see how that looks before I add more raw umber to it. More raw umber, definitely. So it's creating a slightly lighter but slightly more brown version of that grey. So it is bringing in a little bit more warmth, but because it's the raw umber as opposed to the burnt umber, it doesn't have that red undertone to it. So it's still got that green undertone, so it feels a lot more cool. It's not going to have as big of an impact on the areas that we're painting just yet. That's going to really come in the next section of the tutorial. So let's apply this where we see it, and it's going to make a difference now because we're starting to look at the mid-range values areas without being over the top light. I'm just removing excess paint on my brush because it was just pooling on my tips. And so again, I'm just using the flat of my filbert, not the edge. And so the actual hairs in the filbert are creating the soft look of the velvet hairs in the painting. If you rotate your brush as you work, then you'll be able to create finer points, especially when it comes to the areas where the velvet is turning out and away rather than running flat down the face of the antlers. So you can play with the actual shape of the brush to create the shape of the hairs or the velvet as you're working. So allow a lot of those darker tones to show through again, because that's essentially now the shadow tones in your fur and your velvet. Told you that I would be saying fur instead of velvet throughout. There is a weird grey tone that runs through these marks here. So I'm just going to add that really quickly. It's like a weird greyish blue tone. And I'm just going to bring that in so that I don't forget it. Right, now I'm going to move over to the warm side and use more titanium white and more raw sienna and mix that into the tone that we had previously created. This is getting very close to our next mid-range value, which is going to be obviously featured in the next section. Let's experiment with that and see how it looks. Lovely, that'll do. So just watch as I apply this color across the surface of all the antlers that we're painting for this tutorial. Again, make sure that you're not being too precious about the marks you're making. Allow them to be soft. Allow the curves to follow the shape of the antler in the reference photo. So change the angle of your brush as you need it. Allow those darker tones to show through and just have fun with it. You don't have to work perfectly for this. We will get around to using more detail later, but really pay attention to the overall structure more than anything for this section here. This is slowly starting to look more and more like an opacity layer when it gets to the darker areas. Let's just go with it and then do a quick glaze just to soften some of the areas, and then we will start the next section. But for now, let's just finish applying this tone across the whole part of the antlers. So now to finish off this section, I'm just going to apply a quick glaze of burnt umber. This is a tonal correction glaze rather than a blending into the shadows. I'm just overall correcting the tones of the areas where this mid-tone, visually, I needed it to be a little bit warmer, a little bit more brown. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of burnt umber, and I'm going to brush that into this layer of mid-tone, and I'm going to let it show through a few of the different tones so it's not covering up the textures that I've been adding completely. I'm allowing it all to show through. I don't want to lose any of those lighter marks that I've made because they are kind of important right now. So I'm just going to do this for this last little bit, and then I will move into the next section. If you find that your glaze for this application isn't going on smoothly and you're kind of battling with it and it feels like you're dry brushing rather than getting a smooth application, just add a droplet of water to your brush, not a lot, just get it a bit wet, and then that will make all the difference for getting this part nice and easy. All right, so that is all my darker tones applied. So you can see the texture of the velvet, you can see the different tonal variations, you can see the grey and the cool and the dark and the light. And so for the next part of this tutorial, I am going to focus on background through to foreground. So the next section, I'm going to finish, so start from the lighter mid-tone values. So these sections are now broken up by value scale, and it's now the mid-range values. This is now going to be a completion of these background elements. So the more soft focus, the antlers that are behind the ones at the front. This is so that when it comes to applying those lighter mid-range values to the antlers at the front, I can create the edges and not lose that definition that I create through those layers. So this next section is wholly dedicated to completing these background antlers and getting them finished. So I am going to focus on those going forward. For the full tutorial, please follow the link in the description. Remember to subscribe to see more tips and art from me, and I will see you next time.